All right, back to it now. Greatly appreciate you being here. Big day, as you know, I'm going to D.C. I'll have a big report for you on Thursday morning here on the program as I sit down with members of the cabinet to discuss everything going on in the Trump administration, from the southern border to the economy to what's happening in Ukraine. Of course, the president traveling to Rome for the funeral of the Pope. That'll be Saturday morning. Shifting gears now, Bret Boyd is the CEO of Sustainment. It's a brand new tech company working to promote American manufacturing, which we need more of, not less. Bret, welcome to the program.
Hi, Steve. It's great to be with you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you here. Thank you for being here. Now, the tariffs have created a lot of uncertainty in the markets. The markets took another beating yesterday, down 970 points, I think it was. Gold is skyrocketing. That's not a good sign either. But I talked to some companies. I talked to a gentleman yesterday here on this program whose company is absolutely exploding because of the tariffs. I mean, there's good news and bad news. There's stuff on both sides of this, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we have the perspective of working actually with thousands of manufacturers, both these larger companies who have some international suppliers and are trying to figure out what to do with tariffs, and some of these smaller manufacturers who are really benefiting from all of this new inbound. Essentially, we build software to make it easier for companies to find and work with U.S. manufacturers. So, yeah, we're seeing both sides of this. There's both a lot of friction from supply chain teams, but a ton of opportunities for American manufacturers.
So Sustainment is a company that creates a tracking system so that you can connect with other companies. Is that what you're explaining to me?
Essentially, I mean, think of a big network of tens of thousands of U.S. manufacturers of who's where, what machines do they have, what equipment do they have, what capabilities have. And we almost provide this connective tissue in between supply chain teams on the larger side and their suppliers there, so they can get quotes easily, award projects, kind of the basic blocking and tackling. But one of our initial frustrations of starting this business was really looking back 5 years ago and seeing that it was easier to go find a Chinese manufacturer on Alibaba than in many cases it was to go find a U.S. manufacturer in Central Texas or Central Michigan or wherever. So we really wanted to apply software to just make that easier.
So is it working? Are you connecting people? I mean, look, we've got a lot of companies. I mean, you get the notable ones. Honda's building in Indiana, and the RAV4 for Toyota is going to be built in Tennessee. And you see some of the big manufacturers, and you see the investment from Japan and Taiwan and elsewhere. But for smaller companies, the company I was talking about builds wooden doors in Utah and Kentucky. Luckily, 97% of their natural resources already came from the United States. So all of a sudden, you've got these companies coming to them saying, hey, we were manufacturing in China. We can't anymore. We're coming to you. And their business is just exploding. But how do you find people like that?
No, and that's the challenge. I mean, what you need to understand is we get really tied up with the Hondas and all of these big companies. But when you talk about U.S. manufacturing, you're actually talking about small and medium-sized businesses spread throughout the country. There are 250,000 manufacturers. 98.5% of those are sub 500 employee businesses. And these businesses are amazing. They build amazing things, but that's actually where the action is in U.S. manufacturing. And again, there is a lot of untapped potential in the system in our country as a result of just the idea that it's still a fragmented industry that I think candidly is really going to benefit from all of this emphasis on domestic manufacturing.
How long can we hang on, though? Because here's the question. I mean, I see there's a lot of fear out there right now. Donald Trump's poll numbers have come down, for sure. People look at the stock market, people that are retired, 401ks, retirement accounts, really taking a pounding, 20% down, a lot of folks. How long can this go on? And then, of course, you got Donald Trump arguing with the Fed about interest rates and what should happen next. How long do you think we can sustain this? And look, I believe that we can beat China. It's just the question of how hard do we want to go?
Yeah, look, I think this is the fundamental question that you're at, right? Like if we step back, this idea of reindustrializing the United States is something that we absolutely have to do. It's non-negotiable. This is a no-brainer. We exist in a world now where you've essentially had a very, very strategic industrial policy by China for the last 30 years that has resulted in them having this overwhelming advantage in many, many sectors of manufacturing. Think about drones, pharmaceuticals, some aspects of auto manufacturing. And this has happened really at the expense of U.S. manufacturers. They've had to compete with Chinese companies who are in part funded by the Chinese state. And it is going to take some unwinding of doing that. But if you look at a lot of these industries, these are the same industries that are foundational to national strength, to military strength. We need to find a way to rebuild, and there will absolutely be some pain and friction in going through this. And again, we talk to these men and women all the time who are trying to figure out how to rebuild relationships, how to localize supply chains, and so on. So I'm not denying that there's pain. I don't actually know how to answer your question of what our pain tolerance is. But I think if you keep your eye on the macro goal and the significance of what we face and how we got here, that helps frame the discussion.
Yes. There's, look, China needs our markets, right? And we have, I think Donald Trump's exactly right. We have been taken advantage of for years, decades. Not just by the Chinese, by the EU, by Taiwan, by Australia. You name a country, we've probably been getting the short end of the stick. That's changing. We've got dozens of countries at the table now negotiating for a fair deal. I don't think tariffs are going to be zero. It'll probably be 10% on either side. There's a cost of doing business. That's the way the world works. I think that's probably a fair place to be, as long as it's equal. As long as it's equal and we can compete, so we can bring back industry to America, whether it's manufacturing metal or pharmaceuticals or textiles or whatever it might be, right?
No, I absolutely agree, and I think tariffs are one element of national policy towards this end, right? If you look at the tools that we have available, tariffs I think are one. Monetary policy is one. There are also direct things that the country can do to encourage specific industries that we find important. I mean, these are all the tools of policy that I think will characterize the next 20, 30, 50 years. I think I view strongly that this whole world of peak globalization and free trade everywhere, except in reciprocal area, like I think that's over, right? I think we are actually in a world where we have dangerous near peer competitors. Those competitors have different goals and different objectives for what they want the global system to look like. Manufacturing strength and industrial strength is national strength and is military strength. And we just are in a world where we need to take that seriously going forward. And I think we're seeing that. This is obviously a commitment of this administration,
Absolutely.
which I think really.
And Brad, if anybody's listening right now and watching the program, which of course they are, and they want to know more about what you're doing about Sustainment and your new company promoting American manufacturing, Sustainment, how do they find you?
So we're at sustainment.com. So if you're a manufacturing supplier, please come and join for free. You can create a profile and be discovered by new customers, including the Department of Defense. And if you're a larger organization, we can help your supply chain really be more agile as you look at this onshoring problem. So again, we're at sustainment.com.
Sustainment.com. Bret Boyd, I tip my hat for you diving in and try something different, sir. Thank you for being here.
All right. Thank you, sir. I appreciate you having me.
Appreciate you being here. Good stuff. All right, still to come. The cartels. Hasta la vista. Get out of here. We don't want the cartels here. We don't want your drugs. We don't want your human trafficking or your filth. We'll talk about that up next. Stacy's in joining me for that after the break.